it's really an honor for us that Dr. Dipra Jha, out of his such a busy schedule, he is attending a lot of online sessions throughout the world. He has agreed to be the part of this International Igniting Mind lecture series, which is spread around for 45 days, where around more than 33 international lecturers and the professors are giving lectures to the students about the subject, about the present condition, about the future. So really an honor for us as a Jagran Lakecity University and especially as a School of Hospitality to have you on the board, sir. And on behalf of Jagran Lakecity University Management, I, Nafees Haider Naqvi, welcome you with the most humble gestures, which all we can do in online. And definitely we'll see forward in the future to welcome you physically to Bhopal. Bhopal is a lovely place to be. Not as good as Washington DC, but definitely a good place, having a lot of lakes. So with this, I request Meghna to kindly introduce officially Dr. Jha to the audience, and then we can begin with the session.
Sure, sir. So, good evening, everybody. My name is Meghna Raizada, and I'm the assistant professor at Jagran Lakecity University. On behalf of both Jagran Lakecity University and the School of Hospitality and Tourism, I welcome you all to the Igniting Mind Lecture Series virtual event. Thank you for joining. Our topic this evening is the future of hospitality. The reason for this topic is COVID-19 has completely disputed travel, tourism, events, hotels, restaurants, and all associated sectors. The impact of the pandemic has been devastating, but are also tremendous innovation. There are some hope as some markets and however, it is considered
Yes, can you please mute yourself?
and as
Meghna, you are muted. Meghna, you are on mute.
sorry, sir.
Yeah.
I'll start again. Given the situation, we are in the question what lies ahead once domestic and international travel restarts and the industry begins to recover. What are some of the changes we expect in customer behavior and use of technology? And most importantly for all the students joining us this evening, what would future careers in hospitality look alike? To help us explore these questions, we have a world-class speaker joining us all the way from United States. Let me begin by saying Professor Dipra Jha is not only a global scholar and an internationally renowned expert in luxury hospitality, but he is someone that the hospitality industry looks up for guidance. We are delighted he can join us through Zoom 12 hours and 30 minutes time difference. Professor Jha is a scholar associate professor in hospitality management and international business at Washington State University Carson College of Business. He is also the assistant director of their School of Hospitality Business Management. For those of you who track hospitality education, the School of Hospitality Business Management at Washington State University is constantly ranked among the top 10 programs in the world. Our sought after speaker, presenter, and consultant, Professor Jha, advises some of the most well known hospitality brands in the world. Before COVID 19 happened, he crisscrossed the world to advise top luxury brands and tourist ministries. He was invited as the first professor in residence at the Venetian Mega Resort in Las Vegas, with more than 7,000 suites, 150 plus restaurants, 2.25 million square feet of event square, and close to 10,000 employees, is the largest luxury hotel in the world, Professor Jha has also collaborated with Marriott International, Tourism Authority of Thailand, and Group in Dubai. I know he is a valued advisor to the Oberoi Center of Learning and Development, and they frequently reach out to him to seek his expertise on the curriculum and training. Professor Jha, welcome to this webinar and on behalf of the Jagran Lakecity University, we thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Meghna. Professor Naqvi, I am absolutely delighted to join all of you this evening. Thank you for this invitation. So I'm honored and humbled to spend some time with all of you tonight. I have never been to Bhopal, but now I have a reason to visit there. So hopefully once travel is possible and next time my travels bring me to India, I'd love to visit your wonderful institution.
Will be an honor, sir. Will be an honor.
So, friends, the plan for this evening is that I want to talk to you about the future of hospitality. And as Meghna mentioned in her introduction, we are all grappling with so many questions about what does the future look like for tourism, hospitality, events, travel, and all of that. So what I have done today is I have basically split my presentation in two parts. The first part, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about where I live, what I do, some of my teaching experiences, and then I am going to jump into and talk about some of the trends. May we request all participants to mute themselves? Otherwise, the audio feed is going to be lots of disturbance. Professor Naqvi, could you make one more announcement?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just a minute, sir. You are also mute. You can unmute yourself, please.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Yes, technology is always interesting, like in terms of what you can or cannot do. So, all right. What I was stating right before we got muted was that my plan today is to basically tell you a little bit about what I do and some of my teaching philosophies and teaching experiences, because I know we have many faculty members on this Zoom session tonight. And then we will talk about the future of hospitality. And I want to end with very specific guidances or specific thoughts for the students who are joining us tonight on this session. So here's a little bit about myself. My contact information is on the bottom of the slide. If any of you want to connect with me on LinkedIn or any other social media, you are very welcome. I am a scholarly associate professor at Washington State University, Carson College of Business. I primarily teach in two broad areas: the hospitality business management and international business. Well, if you think about it, by definition, hospitality is international. So it is a very good complement for me to actually teach in these two disciplines. I am also the assistant director of the School of Hospitality Business Management here at Washington State University. And my primary areas of expertise are luxury hospitality and tourism strategy. As Meghna indicated in her introduction, I do a lot of work with luxury brands, luxury hospitality brands around the world, like Jumeirah Group in Dubai, the Venetian Mega Hotel here in the United States in Las Vegas. In terms of tourism strategy, I do a lot of work in helping communities, cities, or countries kind of frame their tourism strategies. For example, the Tourism Authority of Thailand, when they invited me to do work with them a few years ago, Thailand was trying to implement their Thailand 2.0 strategy. How can Thailand become a much more affluent tourist destination compared to the backpack and the low-end tourism destination? So those kinds of things. So a little bit about where I live, because whenever I say Washington State University, sometimes people get a little confused because we have two Washingtons in the United States. One is Washington, D.C., and the other one is Washington State, where I live. So Washington State is absolutely on the west coast of the United States. You can see the cursor. So we are bordering to our north is Canada, and to our west is the beautiful Pacific Ocean. So we are one of the most spectacularly beautiful states with the Pacific Ocean to our west, the mountains, and the beautiful vineyards of Columbia Valley and Central Washington. So some of the very notable businesses or companies that are Washington-based that I'm sure all of you have heard of. Amazon calls Washington State its home. So is Microsoft. As a matter of fact, both Mr. Bezos and Mr. Gates live in Washington. Starbucks is also one of the companies that is Washington-based, and of course, Boeing, the aircraft manufacturer. There are plenty of other companies, but I just thought I will just share these four because they are very well known around the world. Our biggest city is Seattle, which is right on the Pacific Ocean. It is a spectacularly beautiful city. And since we are talking about hospitality and tourism tonight, Seattle, just to give you an idea, it is a big hub of business travel because of all these gigantic corporations being housed close to Seattle, whether it is Amazon or Microsoft, which is based out of Redmond, which is not too far from Seattle. Just to give you an impact of COVID-19 on the hospitality business on the city of Seattle, Amazon alone actually contributes 400,000, that is 4 lakh room nights to the city of Seattle every year. So now that business travel has come to a halt and conferences and meetings and events are not happening, you can imagine what is happening to business travel and many of the cities. And since there is no lodging tax collection, marketing dollars are going down. And that's the case universally around the world. So we are living in very interesting times, to put it mildly. A little bit about my teaching and what I love to do. I absolutely enjoy teaching and learning. This is typically what my classroom looks like. I do a lot of group work with my students. I like to help them teach using cases and so on and so forth. But before COVID-19, I was very blessed to be able to travel the world and teach in various countries or in various situations. So whether I am delivering a lecture in Ukraine or I am teaching students in China. Actually, I lived in China last year at Hainan University and taught there, or I am delivering a presentation in Breda University in the Netherlands. It is always very, very delightful for me to be able to engage with students and faculty from around the world. So tonight, it is a real honor for me that I am able to still present to you or talk with you using technology as a medium. So as much as I enjoy doing in-person teaching and learning, I also enjoy the online format. Here is a picture of me speaking at one of the universities in India. This is at Shulini University in Solan in Himachal Pradesh. This was a few years ago. So as I was mentioning, that as much as I enjoy in-person teaching and learning, I'm also very comfortable with the online format. I am constantly experimenting with new stuff, like Zoom released these new video filters not too long ago. And I'm like, okay, let me experiment with them and see. So I'm always looking at how do we engage people using different kinds of online technology. Um, Now, Zoom and Microsoft Teams and Google Meets may be a new word in academia or in businesses beginning early of 2020, but I have been doing Zoom stuff for a long time. In 2018, I actually received a very prestigious grant from the United States Department of State to create a global virtual classroom program. So I have been doing synchronous Zoom classes with 6 countries and 8 universities since early 2018. So when people started talking about Zoom and talking about synchronous sessions, I'm like, well, I have a little bit of experience with all of that, and I have kind of figured out, what works and what doesn't work, and all of that kinds of things. So I also experiment with a lot of other technology. For example, I have used a telepresence robot in my classroom. So the robot can actually move around in the classroom, and we can bring guest speakers in, and the guest speaker can have control of the robot. They can actually drive the robot anywhere. So like, if Professor Naqvi is talking to my students here at Washington State, I can give him host control for the robot, and he can drive the robot here in Washington, sitting in Bhopal. So that's pretty cool, to be able to use this technology. So what used to be very novelty, like when I used to use these technologies 2 years, 3 years ago, some of my colleagues used to say, whoa, this sounds like Star Wars or something like that. But now it is becoming more and more and more kind of usual, and people are always looking at these kinds of stuff. And so basically for me, hospitality, tourism, and travel is not only something that I teach or I talk about. I am really very passionate about the industry. I love to travel. Like I said, I'm very fortunate that I'm able to do a lot of traveling. On a typical year, I would travel around 125,000 air miles. That is more than 5 times around the world every year. So my friends oftentimes joke with me that I sleep better on airplanes than on my own bed. And that's to some extent true, because of this extensive traveling. So, and I am actually feeling the lack of travel this year. Like, I was just kind of getting antsy to that point. Like, I need to go somewhere. Like, just sitting at home and just sitting in front of a Zoom screen all day long is not very healthy, whether it is mentally or it is physically. So, but let's all hope that travel comes back soon, our industry recovers, and then we are all able to explore the beauty of the world again. So, with that, as not only a scholar of travel and tourism, but also as someone who really loves to travel, loves to stay in hotels, and so on and so forth, I have been asking myself, what are some of the key trends that is going to impact the future of hospitality? So I'm going to talk to you about 5 of those key trends today. And then as I am talking about these trends, I am going to be stopping and giving you an opportunity to ask questions as we are talking about those trends. So the first one, let's talk about hotels. Contactless is the new luxury. That means we are now seeing more and more and more guests asking for contactless services. And it starts right from arrival or departure. That means actually I am discussing a major research project with Marriott International Corporate Office. Marriott is now planning to bring back kiosks, check-in kiosks, for some of their select service hotels. So basically what the guests are saying, that I still want to stay at a hotel, but I do not want to be in contact with a front desk person checking me in or checking me out. Can we do that digitally? So how can we digitize records? Because the airline industry have figured it out. Like, most of the time when I travel, I do not do an in-person check-in at an airport. other than dropping off my luggage or my bag. I can check in using my app on the phone, and then my boarding pass and everything is actually a QR code. So why can't we do the same for hotels? And then just like this picture, as you see this gentleman standing, in terms of doing a biometric verification. Uh, can guests' biometric data be stored, and can that be used in terms of basically checking in or checking out, or like why do I have to use my credit card to pay even at the hotel restaurant? My face should be my credit card, my biometric biometric identification. So what is happening is that going forward, we will be expecting, or will be seeing, a lot more technology-enabled guest experience. And when I talk about technology-enabled guest experience, this picture you are seeing on the slide, well, this looks like a big cumbersome machine. What is also happening is that now there is a lot of work going on where it is basically what you call bring your own device. That means can my smartphone easily integrate with the hotel system? Can I do stuff from my using the app on my smartphone? I don't want to touch this this big kiosk even in the hotel lobby, because I am not sure whether it has been cleaned properly, or so on and so forth. Live chat agents, once again, you see, normally, typically, if I'm staying at a hotel and I'm passing through the lobby, I would probably go up to the front desk and talk to a front desk agent and ask them a question, or if I have an issue or a concern. But now guests are saying that I don't want to do that. So there is a lot of work going on. I was just having a conversation with Four Seasons, which is one of the most bespoke luxury hotel companies in the world. They are actually now having live chat agents stand by, so that basically the guest is still talking to somebody in the hotel, who is a live human being, but they are using a chat feature, not face to face. Once again, that going back to that contactless delivery of services. And artificial intelligence, AI enabled communication, is becoming bigger. Marriott has already done work with Alexa for Business. That's basically when you walk into a hotel room, instead of switching on the lights, you just say, Alexa, please switch on the lights. Alexa, please switch on the TV. And same thing with Google Duplex, which is Google's Google's AI system. It is even more powerful. With Google Duplex, you can basically replace the complete switchboard in the hotel, the telephone operators in the hotel. I mean, you can just say that, could you please call in-room dining? Could you order? And because this is artificial intelligence enabled, it remembers whether you ordered Darjeeling tea or chamomile tea or whatever, and then it can start prompting you that, and so all of those things are stored. And use of data points is not very new. Luxury brands have been using them successfully for a while now. I remember an incident. I was staying at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Hong Kong. This was, I think, 2016, so it is 4 years ago. And I went up to the Ritz-Carlton Club on the top floor at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Hong Kong. And as soon as I sat down, the manager came over, and the manager told me, Professor Jha, we are delighted to have you here. Sir, I know that you do not like Coke Zero, so we have Diet Coke for you. Now, I have never stayed in that hotel before. How did they know that? And they knew that because, my guest profile with Ritz-Carlton has that inputted. I stayed at other Ritz-Carlton hotels where I said that I don't like Coke Zero, I like Diet Coke, and that is actually inputted in my guest profile. So irrespective of whichever Ritz-Carlton hotel I'm staying anywhere in the world, they know that this particular guest does not like Coke Zero, they like Diet Coke. There are a couple of comments via chat. Let me just look at them. Okay. Um, And so artificial intelligence enabled communication is becoming really, really big. And with systems or platforms like Alexa or Google Duplex, and you know, artificial intelligence can actually do a lot of stuff. I actually have an Alexa at home, and I'm constantly talking to Alexa for information. Like, for example, every morning after I wake up, like this morning when I woke up, you know, after I brushed my teeth, the thing I do is, as I am, you know, warming up my my tea in the microwave, I would always say, Alexa, what's up? And when I say, Alexa, what's up, what Alexa does is it gives me a digest of all of the news items that happened the previous day. So, you know, so it's basically while I'm making tea or making breakfast, you know, I am getting basically a summary, a bullet point of what are the major news items that happened around the world. Like last night, we had a presidential debate in the United States and all of that kind of stuff. And then I can ask, what's the weather going to be like? And all those kinds of things. So artificial intelligence is getting better. And since we are talking about the hotel industry, another thing that's going to happen post COVID-19 as the industry comes back, we are going to see much more strategic alliances around the world. I woke up this morning from a news report from Oberoi Hotels, a company that I very closely work with in India, that they have just announced a strategic alliance with Mandarin Oriental, which is a very large bespoke luxury hotel company out of Hong Kong. Now, Oberoi Hotels is very well known in India, Middle East, and other parts of Asia, but they are not well known in Europe and North America. Whereas Mandarin Oriental, though they are an Asian brand, they are very well known in North America and Europe. So basically, with all of this strategic alliancing, we are going to see a whole new emergence of, it's very much like airline code share. It is like British Airways code sharing with Qatar Airways, because, you know, British Airways has great connectivity in Europe and in North America, whereas Qatar has great connectivity in Asia, Australia, New Zealand, Middle East, and Africa. So basically, these kinds of alliances will help the industry to become more efficient and kind of complement each other's service. So that's the trend number one, that contactless is the new luxury. Any questions before I move into trend number two? Or thoughts or comments? Go ahead, sir.
Contactless, until unless it is front office and housekeeping, it can be done. But what they will do about service and production?
Yes, I'm coming to service and production in the next
Right,
slide.
right.
So you just read my mind. So
Okay.
can you just hold on for
Sure.
a minute? And then Suash has a question. Won't such technology take away job from people? For example, why would hotels need someone at front office for check-in? That is a very, very good question, Suash, and I'm glad you asked that. This is not the first time that this has happened. If you look at industry after industry after industry, if you have heard the name of the American city Detroit, does anybody know what was Detroit very famous for? Does anybody know what was Detroit very famous for? Detroit used to be where all of the big three American car makers had their factories: General Motors, Ford, and Chevrolet. So right from the 1930s to 1960s or 70s, Detroit was the boom town. It was equivalent of San Francisco or the Silicon Valley, because there were these massive gleaming factories churning out cars with millions and millions of people working for various parts of the auto industry. Because, during that time, humans used to make cars. That means most of the production, automobile manufacturing, happened through human hands. Yes, machines were used, but since the 1980s, automobile production has moved much more automated. Now, robots makes our cars, and our cars have become much safer and much higher quality because robots make them. Because a human eye cannot detect a microchip or a small defect, a hairline defect in an engine or in a windshield, but a robot can. So, so hospitality is not the first industry that has actually gone through. I mean, if any of you have read the famous poem, "The Lamplighter," where the Scottish poet is talking about the lamplighter going around and lighting the gas lamps. Yes, we had to employ thousands and thousands of lamplighters who used to go around every evening and light those gas lamps. Now, a whole city can be lit just by flipping one switch from a central point. So the point I'm making is, yes, that this is going to make a lot of people redundant or a lot of jobs redundant in the industry, but in a sense that you cannot actually hold back innovation or efficiency. So, for example, I'm going to show you a small video, and then we are actually going to talk about this. So I'm glad that you asked this question, Suash. That yes, I have been talking about this for the last 8 years. That I was predicting a 30% reduction in the hotel industry workforce going forward. And COVID-19 is one of those accelerate that, because any function or any job that is repetitive, that can be done by a machine, it is just going to provide more efficiency and more profitability. Because at the end of the day, remember, hospitality or hotels, at the end of the day, it's a business. And so you would always like, from an operator point of view, you always like to make it more efficient. And how do we even deliver some of the contactless service? Like, one of the questions a lot of time I'm asked is that, can you even deliver, a personalized service when it is contactless? Yes, you can. Look at this welcome message for me at the D. Oberoi Gurgaon, a few years ago. As you can see that, I like to wear bow ties. And this television message in my suite at D. Oberoi Gurgaon actually had a bow tie on it. That means as soon as I walked into the suite, though there is not a human being who is welcoming me in this case, this digital interface is actually welcoming me, because it said that, welcome back, Professor Jha, and with that bow tie. That means using digital technology, you can still deliver a highly personalized guest experience. And that was what I was essentially talking about. All right, food and beverage. Professor Naqvi asked me the question about, what happens to production and all of that stuff. So going forward, the trend in food and beverage is going to be, restaurants or hotel productions needs to be much more nimble, and they need to be able to scale. Scale means that how can we quickly pivot from a restaurant service to a delivery, and also just-in-time procurement. That means rather than holding very large inventories of food and beverage and wines, is there any way we can quickly procure and deliver? And then logistics is key. One of the restaurants are hurting here in the United States, just like anywhere else in the world. But there are few restaurant chains, like one that I know of, Chipotle, which is basically a fresh casual Mexican food chain. They have been doing very well during the pandemic because they have been very nimble. They only serve a few things. It is like a line, kind of almost very much like a robotic line. And then they have tied up with Uber Eats and DoorDash and all of these services. And they have been able to scale very, very, very quickly. So I was talking to some of their managers and they were saying, I mean, we have so much of demand that we can't keep up. So though they had closed down their dining rooms or in-person dining for Chipotle's, they are doing phenomenal business. So going forward, how can food and beverage deliver like that? And as a matter of fact, since I'm talking about food and beverage, I read a news report last week that actually food delivery in India is now up to 85% compared to pre-COVID. That's pretty impressive. That means, restaurants or hotels are figuring out these logistics and delivery partnerships where, if people are not coming to eat at your restaurant, why can't we deliver the food to them? Now, this is not something very new in terms of the delivery. You see how DoorDash is actually using these robots to deliver food. I mean, this is becoming more and more common in the US. But even 3-4 years ago, like I remember staying at the Renaissance Hotel in Beijing, I just asked for a bottle of water to be delivered to my room. And instead of a human being, look how the bottle of water was delivered. Good morning, everybody. I am at the Renaissance Beijing, and here is their robot concierge delivering a bottle of water to my room. Look at this.
It's my pleasure to serve for you. No need to touch anywhere. Just click close on the screen and the cabinet would be closed. John, how did I make? Please leave your comments on your booking website. You're very welcome to take a picture with me if you like.
It's fully automated, and now it's calling the elevator and going downstairs. So here is a great example that who says that you need actually a room service server to actually provide or run up bottles of water or toilet paper and something like that. And going back to the question that Suhas asked, the bigger question we need to ask is, do we really need a human being to actually do tasks that are manual and repetitive, or can machines do them more efficiently and better? So these are difficult questions, but that's where the industry is actually going. And then Professor Naqvi also asked about, production and food and beverage. So, bartending is something that we all know is a very human thing but I'm going to show you a video which is going to be completely change your impression about bartending. This is the Tipsy Robot bar at Las Vegas. Look who made my drink. What do you think? Who says that you need a human being to make a cocktail? Any thoughts or comments? So the point is, whether it is chopping onions or making juliennes of potatoes, you can basically, just program, just like robots are making our cars these days. They are completely capable of chopping onions and making juliennes of potatoes, or cooking a soup. I mean, there is a lot of experimentation going on. Like the Research Chefs of America are actually experimenting with 3D printing of food. That means, maybe in a few years, I'm being a little bit optimistic here, that we will probably be able to walk into a McDonald's and we don't need to order. We just need to punch in some buttons and a 3D printer and swipe our credit card, and a 3D printer will be able to print a completely edible burger. So, so I'm saying that work is already going on. And so it is no different, going back to the question about, aren't these taking away jobs? If you think of vacuum cleaners, before vacuum cleaners were invented, how were hotel rooms cleaned? They were cleaned by humans. We had to actually employ many more housekeepers to actually clean those rooms. But at the same time, anybody who has worked in housekeeping knows that that's a very high impact area. There are a lot of injuries. There are a lot of things that happen due to bloodborne pathogens and those kinds of things. So actually, the advent of vacuum cleaners or carpet shampooing machines had not only made hotel rooms much cleaner, but it has also made the work of housekeepers much safer. So, I mean, it is a part of the process of innovation and progress. And any time an industry tries to hold back on innovation and progress, it becomes completely redundant. So, especially for the students who are on this Zoom session tonight, I do not want you to get scared or get nervous about the industry. On the contrary, you are actually going to be entering an industry in very exciting times, because you will actually have all of these new systems and technology to work with. But also at the same time, you have to keep up and be innovative yourself. The whole same old of that typical hotel industry, the silo thinking of the that I am front office, I am food production, I am food and beverage service, or I am housekeeping, is not going to work anymore. You have to think like a business operator, like an entrepreneur. That how can we make the business as a whole better? And that's where a lot of action is actually happening. And since we're talking about housekeeping, I am going to state that housekeeping, and I'm broadening it out, that I'm going to call it health, hygiene, and sanitation. That's going to be the in department. That is, there'd be so much demand for people who understands things like electrostatic spraying, ultraviolet ray sanitization, pathogen protocols. So if you thought that housekeeping was one of those very hard, boring, tedious departments, think again, because with contactless services and deliveries, guests are going to be expecting a spectacularly clean, sanitized, and hygienic room and public areas. So we are already seeing new designations in hotels called health and hygiene managers. They are not called housekeepers or floor supervisors anymore. So there is a lot of potential in that area. And then trend number 4, innovation is the way forward. This is very true, especially for the hotels. Let me quickly look at the chat. So if robots would take care of most of the things in hotels, then what skills should we learn? Does this mean that there would be a shift in the skills required in the hospitality industry? Very good question. Just hold on to that thought for a minute, because we are talking about innovation. So yes, the skill that you need is to be able to think innovatively and act innovatively. What is innovation? I am going to say that innovation is not only the way forward, how do you innovate? So I will show you some examples. Like this was 3 or 4 years ago. I was staying at the W Hotel in Bangkok, Thailand. I went there to do some work for the Tourism Authority of Thailand. I came back to my room one day and I saw this letter on my bedside table. And I'm like, oh, maybe the general manager has sent me a letter in this envelope. Then I looked closely. It said mojito marshmallow cookies in an edible envelope. This envelope that you are seeing is actually a 3D printed tortilla shell. So for those of you, who are into culinary or food production, this is innovation. This is what has been happening in the industry already. Another innovation. I was staying at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Hong Kong. I walk into my room, I see this chocolate cake, and I thought it was a joke. It said, "Eat me, scan me." You see this QR code? It was not a joke. This is a real QR code on a chocolate cake, printed on a chocolate cake. I took out my phone, I scanned this QR code. What it brought up was a small video message from the general manager of the Ritz-Carlton Hong Kong welcoming me to the hotel. So now you can see how you are pairing food with technology. This is innovation. So going back to the question about what skills do I need to be innovative. I need to think out of the box. I need to be able to create and impact guest services and stay above the competitor. I always tell my students, and I want you to listen to what I'm going to say very carefully, that if you are not staying ahead of the curve is going to leave you behind. If you are not staying ahead of the curve of innovation, the curve is going to leave you behind. So just like the lamplighters, just like the people who made cars by hand in Detroit, are you constantly asking yourself, what can I do to become more innovative? So your goal is not to be a front office manager. Your goal is not to be an executive housekeeper. Your goal is to become an hospitality business strategist. Whatever the strategy, wherever the strategy takes you, you will go there. And you might achieve that through front desk, through housekeeping, through food production, through any of the other departments. So if that makes sense at all. So, and so I do a lot of work with innovation, and I wanted to show you this picture. Before I came to Washington State University, I was at University of Nebraska. Yeah, and in 2016, the University of Nebraska asked me to develop the concept for a teaching and research hotel. So I actually went all over the world. I looked at various models, various templates, and how can we create a learning laboratory for the next generation of hospitality talent. And after 5 years of work, this project is it's going to be the Scarlet Hotel, is just broke ground. It is a big project, 154 rooms, 35 million US dollar investment, and it is going to be ready next year. It's going to open. So to all of the faculty members on this Zoom session tonight, like, how are we innovating hospitality education? Are we thinking differently? What does your syllabus say? What is the learning outcome that you are trying to achieve by teaching whatever you are teaching? Or are you still teaching in those silos of front office and housekeeping and food production and all of that? And this is not anything new. One of the biggest projects I did last year in 2019, the Oberoi Center of Learning and Development, the OCLD probably runs the most respected management training program in India. And it has been around since 1963. Think about it. That OCLD program has been around since 1963. It has gone through many variations, but last year they asked me to come in and do a complete retool and redesign of that program, because for all these years, the OCLD 2-year management training program was producing phenomenal operational managers, but now they need to produce business managers. The focus needs to be different. And I was actually in their graduation ceremony last year. They invited me, and Mr. P.R.S. Oberoi, their executive chairman, was very, very clear about it. And he said to all of the graduating class that, hopefully in these last 2 years, we have not only taught you operations, but we taught you how to be great business managers. So going back to what skill you need, it doesn't matter which route you take, food production, housekeeping, front office, sales, guest services, you need to figure out how to be a phenomenal business manager in whatever you want to do. And I wanted to show you this hotel project that is basically my brainchild, essentially my baby, because I worked very hard on this project, and now it is tremendous satisfaction for me to see it is coming to fruition. Finally, with all of these things that I am showing you, what it is doing is that, the questions that SoHT just asked about, then what's going to happen to all of the people? Till now, we were all operating in this very, what we call the comfort zone. COVID-19 has not only pushed us out from the comfort zone into awkward zone, but going forward, it is going to push us out to the fear zone. And for all of the students who are actually attending this session, I'm going to say something to you which I want you to remember. Real personal or professional growth is not possible within your comfort zone. You have to push yourself to be in the awkward zone. I would say you have to push yourself to be in the fear zone to be able to be really successful. Because if you think about all of the amazing inventions or innovations that we take for granted, whether it is the iPhone, whether it is many of the other stuff, those things happened because people like Steve Jobs were bold enough to push themselves from the comfort zone to the fear zone. They attempted things that normally people would not like to attempt. And that's how breakthroughs happen. In the hotel industry, earlier, the whole concept was you entered a hotel till the 1980s. They had a big thing called the lobby. The lobby used to be a vast empty space with sofas. Ian Schrager completely turned that on their head, and he created the whole lobby as the living room concept. That's how hotels like W and all were born, and now we are seeing that a complete change in the industry. Let me see, there is a question. Okay, using artificial intelligence will increase the cost for hotel, keeping in view current financial situation in hotels, how hotels will use technology. Yes, the initial cost of incorporating artificial intelligence may be higher, but I will give you the example of something as simple as a smartphone or say just mobile phones. So like, if you see my mobile phone, now we have the power of a computer, of a major computer in our smartphones. But when mobile phones first came into the United States in the 1980s, they looked as big as a brick and they were super expensive. The point I am trying to make is that as technology scales, cost comes down dramatically. So as more hotels start using the technology, basically the artificial intelligence providers will actually bring the cost down dramatically. For consumer electronics, cost actually goes down 30% every year. A new TV that is launched this year, if it costs 50,000 Indian rupees, you can shave off 30% next year for the same TV, because that's how dramatically the cost element happens. Great question from Yetandrod. Sir, do chefs has to learn coding also to create 3D printing food, or engineer will do that work? No, my friend, chefs also need to learn how to actually work the 3D printers, because, and that is what I was talking about, the skill set. Actually, I have another video. We don't have time for that. I could actually show you a robot which is in a Jersey making knife-shaped noodles for one of the restaurants I went to. So yes, so as a chef, you need to understand all of these concepts, how to work with some of this technology and systems. So let me communicate the final trend, and then we will have conversations and questions. Finally, for the students in this on the Zoom session tonight, the future of hospitality careers are going to be very different. Employers are going to look at skill sets very differently. So here are the things I want you to focus on. First thing, digital networking. Your professors have already told you that how important networking is. That means, networking with people in the industry. But now that, you are all stuck at home, you can't be on campus, how do you network with people? That's why places like or platforms like LinkedIn comes in. That means that you make, LinkedIn is free. You make a nice profile on LinkedIn. Please make sure that you are using a picture that shows you in a good professional light, you know, uh, and so on and so forth. Digital presence. I do not know about India. In the United States, when somebody is now applying for a job, almost 90% of the time, the employer, when they're doing background check, will look at their social media. So your digital presence is extremely important. Clean up your social media. Delete if there are any inappropriate photos or videos. You do not want, your employer to look at that. One of the things that I have been pushing my students to do is create a video resume or a video biodata or CV, whatever you want to call. It can be done in less than 1 minute. You don't need Hollywood style or Bollywood style technology for that. You can just do it, record it on your smartphone, or if you have a laptop which has a camera, you can just do that. And then just with any free editing software, you can just put in some little graphics, your name, what you want to do. That's where you are talking about yourself. So I always say create a video resume less than 59 seconds so that you can put it on Instagram. Basically, you are saying, hello, my name is so-and-so. I am I am a student at Jagran Lakecity University, School of Hospitality and Tourism. I am interested in doing this and that. And you can develop several video resumes through your college career. So if you are looking for an internship, you can have a video resume for that. As you are getting ready to actually apply for a job when you are ready to graduate, you can change your video resume. Once again, these things are free, but innovation, remember we talked about innovation. This is how you stay ahead of the curve while the rest of the world are still doing that same old written CV. Yes, you still need a written CV. I am not saying that you don't need a written resume, but invest some time and resources on this. Digital skills, digital storytelling. That means, if you are going to have your Instagram or Facebook or anything like that, do you know how to tell your story digitally? Train yourself on virtual interview skills. I do a lot. I do a lot of these kinds of presentations or speakings all over the world, and I coach many people on virtual interviewing skills, like how do you manage lighting, how do you manage virtual background. Like right now, the background that you are seeing is a picture of Washington State University, but this is not a real live feed. It is a virtual background that I'm using. And since I know how to, basically do the adjustment on Zoom, it has automatically adjusted the lighting and so on and so forth. And of course, I am fortunate to have very high quality technology. Like if you are thinking that, oh, Professor Jha's picture is looking pretty nice, the reason is I am using a 4K Logitech Brio camera. A 4K is actually, is 4 times better than high definition. So even if you are watching me on a smartphone, my picture should still come in pretty good, even in low bandwidth. But so I'm not saying that, you have to invest in all of these technologies, because some of these are still very expensive. But the point is, do you understand how to play with some of this stuff? And finally, digital etiquette. For example, if you are on a live session like this, if you are going to ask a question or make a comment, make sure you turn your camera on. Now, this may not be the culture in India, but for example, in the United States, when you are talking with someone, if you are not making eye contact with that person, it is considered very rude and disrespectful. So same thing in terms of digital etiquette. So if you are talking to me or asking me a question, please have your camera on so that I can see your face. And that's a much more engaged than just a black little screen and an audio. If you're using the chat feature, that's fine. That's a separate issue. But so digital etiquette, how can you train yourself in the digital etiquette? As hospitality students, you all learn etiquette, like how to sit down and eat and all of that kind of stuff, how to make eye contact, how to shake your hand. Same thing for digital etiquettes. And finally, what I'm going to show is a guide to professional success. Professional success is a teamwork. You cannot be successful professionally just by yourself. So you need three types of people in your professional life to be successful. The first one are called mentors. Mentors are people who will talk with you. That means they will tell you, how you can progress. Mentors can be some of your professors at Jagran Lakecity University. They could be people even in the industry. I actually have mentors who are completely in a different industry at all, but I am so blessed because sometimes when I will talk with them, they will provide me a perspective or a look at a thing from a different angle, not from a typical hotel or hospitality angle. The next, what you need in your professional life are coaches. Coaches are people who will talk to you. Let me clarify the difference. Mentors are the people who will talk with you. Coaches are the people who will talk to you, just like coaches do to players. These are the people, say for example, if you are working in an organization, a coach is somebody who is going to guide you through the organization. They will tell you what the hoops are to getting promoted, how can you be successful. And then finally, you have sponsors. Sponsors are the people who will talk about you. That means, these are the people who will be championing your cause, that they will be saying, wow, she's a wonderful hard worker. Maybe, we need to help them move ahead. And so it is very important at these early stages while you are in college to cultivate these individuals in your life, to seek out mentors who will talk with you, to seek out coaches who will talk to you, and then also seek out sponsors who are going to talk about you to other people. Like when I applied for this very senior level professor position here at Washington State, I had people who wrote letters of reference for me, and very powerful. Those are my sponsors. Like, somebody wrote a 2-page letter describing how I developed that teaching and learning hotel in Nebraska with very specific examples. So these are the people who are talking about you, help you to be successful. So it is very important. Remember, professional success, yes, you have to work hard, but it is also a team effort. You need to cultivate a group of mentors, coaches, and sponsors. So those are the 5 trends I wanted to talk about. And since we are talking about the future of hospitality, I want to leave you all with this beautiful picture of this very futuristic hotel. This is not a Photoshop. This is actually one of my favorite hotels in the world. It is the Shangri-La Hotel at the Shard in London. And on the top of this hotel is the Gong Bar. The views are spectacular. If your travels ever take you to London, you should definitely go and go up to this Gong Bar. Please do not drink anything there because everything is super expensive. Just go for the views. I'm just joking. So with that, I hope this session was useful and beneficial. I know we are a little over time, but I can stay on and take in some questions or comments or thoughts. If anybody has any, I will stop the screen sharing right now. So let me read some of the questions coming in. As you give an example of, do we really need a human to make cocktail for us? Indeed, sir, we are having such advanced technology that we don't need any human for it. but still the bond which the bartenders make with the guests while making the cocktails, the technology is lacking that area. What's your viewpoint? You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right, Faiz, that, and you know, I told you that I travel a lot. So one of the things I enjoy, you know, after a long day at work, whether I'm in Kyiv, Ukraine, or in London, or I'm in Amsterdam, or wherever I am, is go to the probably a hotel bar, or sometimes I'll take an Uber and go to a bar, sit down. And it is not only about the drink or the cocktail, but also the ability to talk to the bartender. But then there are other times where I do not want to talk to anyone. You know, all I want to do is just, you know, get a drink, probably a whiskey bramble, and then just go up to my room and sleep because I have a very busy day. So the point I'm making is it is not an either or. It is that can both of these coexist? So I do not want you to think that a robot will be completely replacing the human being. No, in the bar in Las Vegas, they still have human bartenders. So when you actually go there, somebody will help you figure out how to, you know, how to probably put in your order and all of that kind of stuff. And they are happy to talk with you if you want to talk with them. I'm talking about the human beings. But if you just, you know, if you are busy, like sometimes I just want to open my laptop and work on my presentation for the next day, I am not looking for human contact. You know, I am not looking for conversation. Then a robot bartender is fine because it gives me my drink. It is perfectly made. I am minding my own business, and then that's the end of it. So that's actually a great question. Akshat asks if this pandemic crisis is short and intense, it will pass, or will the hospitality industry and tourism in particular have to live with the bad consequences for a long time to come? Well, you know, the pandemic is what is called a black swan event. Black swan is a stock market or financial term, which means we have no precedence of this before. So you know, all of the statistics are coming out. It is way worse for the tourism industry than 9/11 or the 2008 financial crisis. So yes, what we are going through is very brutal, but I am also seeing tremendous innovation all around the world. So rather than thinking of it as good or bad, I think the question to ask is, what can we learn from it? And can the industry be better and more efficient? Like I can tell you, hotels have become much cleaner, much cleaner in the last 2-3 months, because you know, hotels are taking much more care in terms of the hygiene and sanitation, because there is now a very strong push from the consumer to be able to do that. So you know, if you talk about the real bad consequences, yes, will some hotels and restaurants close down? Absolutely, there is no doubt about it. You know, certain parts of the industry will be affected, but once again, the people who will be most affected are the people who will not be able to scale, who will not be able to innovate, and who will not be able to move forward in understanding what the picture will be going in the future. Sir, will there be any replacement for a caring smile to guest by attendant? Very good. The question comes from Mr. Hamilton. Very good question. No, I don't think so. That, you know, a robot will be able to immediately replace that caring smile. Like I always tell people, you cannot Zoom a handshake. You know, like if I was in Bhopal, you know, if Professor Naqvi and I would have shook hands with each other, that would have been a completely different human experience from a neural point of view compared to just looking at me from the screen on your laptop. No. But at the end of the day, now I am becoming much more, I'd say, futuristic, is that, remember, we, at the end of the day, we human beings are basically electrical machines. That means we have millions of neurons firing in our brains, and it is actually giving us stimuli. That's what with virtual reality, when you are wearing a virtual headset and you are playing a virtual game, you can actually replicate some of those stimuli, you know, in the human brain and still be able to do that. Professor Naqvi asked a very good question about food production. If you think of some of the things that other industries use, like for example for food production or for chefs, practice is very important, like whatever, chopping vegetables and all of that kind of stuff. But for example, there are other industries where people do not, like for example, you would say, how would a chef learn to chop onions if they have never held a real knife or a real onion or something like that? But if you think of the other industries which people use a different format, for example, pilots. How are pilots trained? Does a trainee pilot be given a $40 million Airbus 330 and then the airline says, go fly the plane? What happens? How are pilots trained? Who knows?
Through the stimulators.
Through simulators.
Yeah.
What's a simulator? A simulator is basically, it simulates the cockpit of a plane. It simulates things like crash landing, bad weather, and all of that. And so when you do that again and again and again and again and again, your muscle memory kicks in. So there is already a lot of work going on in mixed reality, where basically, right now, all of you are in your homes. So I know Professor Naqvi is already doing some virtual classes. I saw on Facebook that, he's teaching some of the food production. So basically, instead of a Zoom or any other Microsoft Teams platform, if he would be able to broadcast that all of you are wearing a VR headset and you are holding a virtual knife and a virtual onion, and he's actually teaching you using that virtual. So when you do that again and again and again and again using a simulation, then when you actually have a real knife and a real vegetable in your hand, you should be able to do that to some accuracy. I am not saying that it will be exactly the same, but you get my point. What I'm trying to say here, that ultimately your brain and your muscle memory will kick in and help and will be able to be able to do that. Yetendra has a question. By the pandemic, people have learned to avoid unnecessary expenditure. Will this going to affect tourism and hospitality also? I don't think so. On the contrary, in the United States, we, at least I can tell you, we are seeing a pent-up demand for travel. Because now that people were not being able to travel, people are now feeling a yearning. Yeah, and of course, will people be jumping on a plane and going anywhere anytime soon? Probably not. But that actually will create a lot of opportunities for staycation. Who knows what's a staycation? Staycation. That means you are staying at somewhere close by, so that people from Delhi driving to Shimla, so rather than going, going up on a plane. So there is always a yearning in the human mind to travel, irrespective of their financial means. So yes, people who are very badly hurt economically, people who have lost their jobs and so on and so forth, of course, that segment of the population will not be able to afford. But at least, like if you look at statistics coming out of China, China's hotel market is showing a pretty robust rebound now. And so as Dubai is opening up, and some countries in Ukraine, Croatia is opening up, Ukraine is opening up. So I would say, relatively confident that we will see travel demand coming back by sometime by end of 2021. It may not be pre-COVID, and some of the things are going to change. Big conferences and meetings are going to change. That's for sure. 10,000 people meeting in a convention center probably is not going to happen anytime soon. The way people meet and interact is going to change. But I don't think the yearning for human beings to travel is going to go away anytime soon. The ability to, like when I showed you the picture of me sitting on the top of Machu Picchu in Peru, that's an incredible experience to be able to be in a place like that. So that is not going to go anytime soon. Other questions, thoughts, comments? I know we are.
Any questions? Students, faculty?
Yeah, I mean, all of the questions are so intelligent. I'm loving this interaction. So,
Thanks
so
a lot.
thank you.
So with this, I think we came to the end, and again, we are very thankful to Dr. Dipra Jha, and we hope that this thing happen again and again and again. And we will be inviting you, sir, very soon, next time, somewhere in the October month, before we close down for the Shera. And with the hope that you will accept that invitation again.
Yeah, thank you again for this opportunity. As I mentioned, all of you, especially the students in the room, you are more than welcome to network with me digitally on LinkedIn or other social media. If there is anything that I can do to help you become successful, please feel reach out. We, the faculty, are there to support you. That's our job.
Right.
You know, pandemic or no pandemic. That's why
I
we
think
do
that's
what we do.
really
So please feel free. I wish all of you good health, stay healthy, and much success. This was a pleasure and a joy for me. And once again, I look forward to traveling to Bhopal someday and doing that handshake with Professor Naqvi face to face. And Meghna, thank you for the wonderful introduction. Take care and have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening. Good night, all the students and the faculty. See you soon. Thank you, sir.